and welcome to the Back Pocket 2021 Video Game Awards for Excellence in Video Games, as voted on by us, the hosts and editor of the Back Pocket 2021 Video Game Awards for Excellence in Video Games. I'm Nick.
I'm Steph.
I'm Gus.
I'm Will.
I'm Peter.
And today it is a perfect list because it is our personal top 10s. There is no compromise here. We don't need to give in to anyone else's whims or completely unreasonable demands.
10 VR games for all we care. A whole list of them.
Everything could be Nintendo.
So we are going to go around. We'll sort of like go through the 10 to 4 quickly-ish, and then we'll spend a little more time on those top 3. And then obviously we will have the final Game of the Year ranking discussion, but thought it would be good to be able to say our pieces about why we loved the things that came out this year.
Yeah.
All right. Are we ready to start?
I think so.
Around the horn.
Started. Gus, kick us off.
Well, I feel a bit bad because I just looked at my 10 and went, oh no, I feel higher about it. But Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, I loved, but I'm the only one here who didn't finish it. So I've still got
I think that's okay.
to get through.
I have some on my list that I haven't finished.
But that's why it's probably not higher. I enjoyed every moment of it. I just haven't had all the moments yet. And so that was wonderful. I'm sure it's on everyone's list in some place or another.
Yeah.
But I didn't get it. Yeah, I know. I just realized why I said this. But it's a damn wonderful game, and we're going to talk about it a lot in more depth. So that's my number 10.
Steph.
My number 10 is Tribes of Midgard, which was a kind of a surprise for me.
Really?
Yeah, because it was one of those games that at first I was kind of confused by it and I thought it was not balanced well. But it is a game that allows for up to 10 people. And it is rare to be able to get 10 people playing together in a game, all kind of working towards a common cooperatively.
Yeah, right.
In all like working towards a common goal. And it took us. It was hard in a really cool way. Like we had to make multiple attempts at kind of getting further each time until we eventually got to the end game, kind of kill Fenrir the wolf. And leave Midgard with all of our spoils. And it was a really fun challenge to be taking on while wrangling so many people at once. And once I think we all kind of learned how quickly and time sensitive it was to try and do that, I think I haven't played anything like it, and I think it was a cool experience.
So I'm just making sure you didn't pick it because it has 10 people that can play it, right? As
no.
you can? Okay, cool.
Okay,
great.
I'm just saying there's a few different factors.
Yeah, good.
You also
played a big part.
It played a big part.
Putting 10 people in a punishing game would just make it easy. Like 10 people working together sounds like enough people in a game.
No, working together, you can't get 10 people to work together at all.
Game, which requires 10 people.
What?
And is Pokemon Unite.
Hey!
That's 5v5, isn't it?
Technically,
Well, that's
Or was it
yes,
4v4?
that's
Was it-
not 10 corporate.
No, it's 5v5.
It's two
Yeah,
lane
yeah,
in the jungle.
yep.
It's a 5v5. The Pokemon MOBA, the game that should never have worked, but absolutely does. It's adorable. It's a great MOBA in its own right, and I was very surprised by how much I enjoyed spending time playing that game, and I'm keen to play more.
I wish it made my list. It was so close to making it and just skipped off. Well,
Little Nightmares 10, 2.
Little Nightmares 10.
But if it's successful enough.
It'll get there. I love all the like limbos and insides and all those types of games. So it was just cool to have another one of those back. And it slipped so under the radar. I think there was like a 20-minute demo, and then the game came out like a few weeks after.
But I've heard a couple of people say that, and given that I've been on such a horror kick this year, it's crazy that I haven't played it yet. So I think I'm going to play it over the break.
Good. It's definitely got all the vibes of those originals, the original Little Nightmares. And yeah, it's really fun. The one thing I wish, it almost felt like it was going to be co-op because there's kind of 2 characters.
yeah.
I would have
just
loved
assumed
that.
it was. Yeah,
Totally,
that's how much it was marketed that way.
But apart from that, it's just great fun.
Cool. My number 10, Outer Wilds Echoes of the Eye, which I thought would be higher.
Yeah, me too.
And I think it's because I love it so much, but I already had the Outer Wilds experience, and so even though I was surprised they managed to live up to it, it was still like, oh, you did the thing again, which is great, but you did the thing again. It's still phenomenal, but it wasn't like, the surprise was you managed to do it again. I wasn't surprised by the thing itself. And I do think it's a little weaker than the main one, but it's still wonderful.
And you haven't finished that too, you mentioned.
And I haven't,
So, there's still something to...
Something could happen, who knows?
Could be shit.
Yeah. Number 9, Gus.
Number 9, Riders Republic. I had a heap of fun with this. It kind of looked too good to be true as a demo. Oh, sorry, as a trailer, and it was promising a lot. And then I got to play a lot of her early hands-on stuff, and I was like, oh, this is kind of promising. And then what it turned into was a really fun sandbox with some actually really in-depth. I'm gonna just focus on the mountain bike riding.
The mountain bikes.
Freaking love mountain bike riding.
Pretty radical dude in general.
Like first person mountain biking downhill control.
Yeah.
I highly recommend everyone tries it on an ultra wide screen. It is like very immersive.
Yeah, cool.
Even just the sounds of the like hands on the brakes and the heavy breathing of your avatar just going like that. It's like you start making those noises. So it's cool. It's just heaps of fun. And then it's got all the rad social stuff around it, but just focus on riding down a hill. It's great fun.
Yeah, nice.
Steph, you're number 9.
My number 9 is Wrestle Dunk Sports, which we played on Back Pocket.
Wrestle
And
Dunk, baby.
it's a simple concept executed so wonderfully. And I feel like we obviously enjoyed playing it together, and it was probably the loudest and the rowdiest we had been.
It was the most
all
fun I've
year.
had playing a video game with anyone ever.
It has an opportunity to turn the tables so quickly.
Yep.
And moments that like seem to inflate way bigger than they are because it feels like, I don't know, like those double dunks that we did.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Double
yeah,
dunks.
ridiculous.
But I think also I actually started playing it with my nieces when I was looking for games for us to play together, and it was kind of simple and fun enough for them to kind of get their hands on as well, and I really loved it for that also. It's a very broad age range.
Pete,
My number 9 is Resident Evil Village. I didn't, it came out so early in the year. I didn't know that I would still be thinking about it this late in the year. But when I was putting this list together and comparing it to other things that I felt were roughly the same part of my list, Resident Evil, when I think about it, was just it had that extra bit of refinement that the medium didn't quite have, and other things that I played that could have filled that slot for me of being like a very directed narrative in a creepy setting. Like it was that and the medium for me were kind of like, what did I enjoy more out of those two? And Resident Evil, I think, just had that extra bit of polish, and the gunplay was fun, and it just had enough of the type mechanics that we kind of expect to see in those Capcom games. Inventory sucked. That's why it's number 9 and not number 8. Where it would be funnier at number 8, but it can't be at number 8 because of the inventory.
My number 9 is It Takes Two. I'm sorry. I know this is a very...
Don't apologize.
I
Don't
know I don't
apologize
have
here.
to apologize.
the important thing is it's on the list.
Yeah, I know it's
Yeah.
there. I'm a very big story man, and for me, that's where the game fell flat. But I loved the level design, so that's why it lands on the list. Yeah, I don't think there's much more that needs to be said about that game. We've all had our say. But,
And we all
Yeah.
know who we all played it through with. You played it with
Josh.
With Josh,
Yeah,
your
yeah.
mate. So it's like it's funny to always ask, like someone goes, I played It Takes Two, and you go, who did you play it with?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
follow-up
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, yeah.
Your partner, your best friend,
and
you're like,
because
yeah.
similar to you guys, it was remote as well. So
Yep.
it
Yep.
wasn't
Yep.
couch. But yeah, it's a phenomenal thing. But yeah, the story for me just is what keeps it lower
fair
down
enough.
on the list.
Yeah.
Fair.
My number 9 is Psychonauts 2. And this was the one that I was tossing up between this and something else, and I'll say that something else at the end of this video. Yeah, Psychonauts 2. Please play it. Please play Psychonauts 2. It's on Game Pass. You already own it. It's just so wonderful, creative, joyous. The writing is fantastic. It tells a story. It's like a weird, fantastical story, but it's also a story about emotions and mental health and being a person, but not in a sort of like preachy kind of way, and not in a way where it feels like it's just sort of checking boxes. It's actually just like, yeah, it's a really personal, beautiful story. It's really funny and creative and just wonderful. And I think that it's probably the only representation it's going to get in this room today. And so let it be known. Number 9. Number 8, Gus.
Number 8 for me was Deathloop, I believe. Yes, Deathloop, which I had a lot of fun. I did it for the Game Club stream. I definitely gets on the list because it delivered on the very lofty ambitions of being this like very complex style of shooter. It's lower down than I expected it would be because of how long it took to get into it in terms of tutorials, UIs. We all know the face I made. But once it got through that, it executed on a really amazing game that I will not forget. But I will forget the continual, persistent verse PvP stuff that it promised, which was playing as the other character, Juliana, and invading. I thought that would have more legs, and for me personally, I played it once, had a funny time with it, and left it. And I think it would definitely be higher on my list if that was something I wanted to keep coming back to and innovated on that. But I think it was fairly limited, so it was fun that it was there, but not as good as it was promising for me. So that's number 8 for me.
Cool. Nice.
My number 8 is Back for Blood, which I haven't. I know I haven't finished it, but I loved Left 4 Dead back in the day. That was like one of the first cooperative shooters that I ever played, and I think cooperative shooters are something that I'm really passionate about, given that I find competitive shooters a bit too sweaty a lot of the time. And I played through the beta and instantly wanted more. And so when the game launched, I immediately jumped back in. I just haven't had time to get through it with everyone else, but I think that's going to be my another holiday game for me with friends. I think it just was a really satisfying zombie shooter. I really loved the strategy of it, playing on the higher difficulties, and all the guns felt really fun. It was just like, I really, really liked it.
Yeah, cool. The Ben Dixon 1098 surprises the whole time. Very excited. Hey.
Yeah, my number 8 was Dread Hunger, a game that you and I, Steph, in particular, fell in love with and played quite a lot of. Came out of nowhere, and it just was so captivating in all its mechanics and all the social deception attached to it, and we had a really good group of people to play with, and that really brought it to life.
One of the rare things we probably all got in on at one point this year and had an obsession with it all playing. So
it was funny as well, because as we were all playing it, it was like we started to develop new strategies that would give us a new angle on how to play it and deceive people.
Me. I drowned in a jail cell at one point, so the strategy I had was not working.
That'll happen. And they've been cool in terms of the fact that they've been releasing sort of slowly like new content, new maps and stuff like that. So once the polar bear map came in, that was a game changer as well.
Yeah.
Just don't go near them. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
Oh yeah, that clip of you betraying me or whatever, and then having your head swiped off.
That was
Good
great.
times.
Yeah. I definitely. I'm so confident that belongs on my top 10 list this year.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, nice.
My number 8 is Unpacking. I played this literal hours after I'd moved, and I didn't realize it. Like, I finished playing the game and then went to move something into a cupboard. I'm like, oh shit, I'm still going. Like, the game continues. I love doing that. I love finding places. Like, I have so much shit. I love finding places to put things. And
You do have a lot of shit, don't you?
Yeah. So like, opening one of the first boxes and an action figure came out. I was like, yeah, cool. All right. And then just the story that's hidden in this game is so interesting. Like, I was so surprised by the moments that it creates through literally nothing.
Yep.
Like, just through unboxing it.
The placement of things in a room.
Totally. And, and seeing the progression of time in objects and stuff like that. It's just, it was a really exciting, different experience.
Yeah, cool.
Cool.
And my number 8 is Road 96. Road 96, a game that kind of came out of nowhere for me. Just hadn't really seen anything do what it did narratively. This sort of, it was almost like a roguelike or something of storytelling, where you're just going through this stuff over and over, but never repeating anything somehow.
Yeah.
Finding things in different order than other people are, like unlocking different story parts. But everyone I've spoken to who played it was like, oh no, it all came together. Like, even though I got to things at different times, it totally made sense.
Yeah.
I think that some of the storytelling is a tiny bit clunky, but the characters are really endearing. You get really invested, and it's got this weird, like, kidnapping kids government subplot thing going on that just makes everything feel unsettled in some way.
And so many games have gone for that, like, that vibe. It feels like a 90s road trip game.
Yeah.
And a lot of things have been going for that tone in the last few years, like trying to capture a bit of that. And this did it better than anything else that I've played that has tried to do something similar. It's just, the tone is so perfect.
And the music is incredible.
Yeah.
The music in that game is so good, and all original music. So, yeah, Road 96 was a massive surprise for me and very, very exciting.
Yeah.
Gus.
Okay.
My number 7 is Resi 8. Resi Village, like Pete mentioned. This was my slasher film, pulpy junk food game of the year. I just loved falling into this game. And it just, like, I was so happy at how serious it took itself while I was not taking it seriously. I was just loving how over the top it all was. I think, again, it would be higher in my list if we spent more time in the big mansion at the beginning of the game, which was a lot of the material around it. It definitely gets weirder and wackier as it goes on. It was sold as like...
Surprised we were that was
something
such a
more.
small part of the game.
It was sold as a haunted castle that would just stretch for miles that you would get lost in, and you were done with it very early on. And just like, all the characters, all the dialogue, I just love that game for no point really like has it like cracks a joke. It just thinks it's so serious, and everyone in it is so serious, and I'm just laughing all the time. Like just step on me.
I mean, that
so
moment the hand and the
all the hand stuff.
hand
Like I think I also was really pleasantly surprised at how scary it wasn't. So like by maybe hour 2 or 3, I was like, nothing here is scaring me, and so I'm feeling empowered in a fun way to.
What about the giant scary baby in the dollhouse?
That was
look,
actually...
and that was like a
genuinely
well-placed
creepy.
moment in there that did
Fuck, I
make me.
forgot about that.
I think I ran through it all.
You've
being-
oppressed that. Not
I did.
forgotten about it.
Yeah, I think I laughed at it when I saw it, but up until that point, scary. But yeah, it needed
was
some jumps.
grotesque.
But apart from that, that was a roller coaster. It was a freaking roller coaster that game, and it was great fun. So it's my number 7.
Steph, your number 7?
My number 7 is Life is Strange: True Colors, which I think is probably the best Life is Strange game in the franchise since the original. And maybe I think the original, maybe the time mechanic was a little bit stronger than the emotion mechanic in this one. But I think the storytelling and the performances in True Colors were better. I think the writing of sort of younger people, even though these characters were a little bit older, which felt more authentic. I really loved the town. I loved being there. I loved the kind of
that town
the
is
mystery of
so
it.
nice.
Yeah. It was really, really cool. And I feel like these developers, Deck 9, I think it was, took what Don't Nod did and kind of improved upon it while doing justice to the franchise.
I'm so excited to see their next version of this because it was my favorite one. Alex and is up there with Peter Quill as like my favorite character to play this year. Yeah. And it's so nearly made my list. I love that game so much.
I was so emotionally invested in the outcome as well, which is what you want from a game like that. And I was just, it was a great journey. It was a great game to stream as well. And with these games that have narrative choice, it's nice when developers are including those options where
Streaming
people can vote and participate in those decisions, which was great.
Yeah. It was a standout game.
Similarly, in an emotionally impacting way, my number 7 was Chivalry 2. Of course, when you're in those battles, those medieval fights, those conquests, there's so much drama and emotion in hitting the scream button as you run at each other.
I feel like I had a 50% hit rate of my own team.
That feels like real battle.
In my defense, somebody wearing plate armor that's covered in blood looks like they're on the red team.
That's true.
Very
fair.
That's true. Very fair. That's true. Very fair.
They should address that.
They should have organized before the battle. Someone should wear teal or yellow, color that doesn't
Something that pops.
Something that
pops on the battlefield.
I love action games like this, and that this one in particular had what I found to be a really fun and intuitive Arcadia version of a combat that sometimes gets a little bit too smart for its own good, rolling the mouse wheel and stuff to do jabs and things that just make it feel
body
like
turning.
at the end.
Had?
Yeah.
Cool.
So I just think it was like a perfect entry in a genre that is growing to be, quite an extensive list. It really all started with Mountain Blade, and then we saw War of the Roses, and more recently things like Mordhau. But Chivalry is
Honor.
And For Honor, of course, Ubisoft diving in. But absolutely, Chivalry has proven to be the one that is out there to have the most fun.
And beat someone to death with someone else's head.
You can do that.
You can throw fish at people, I think, and all kinds of stuff. My favorite is all the different voice lines that you can use as you're running into battle. And you can hear everyone around you being like, "Ah!"
So number 7 for me, Chivalry 2. Awesome. What a blast.
Good choice.
Number 7 for me is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart.
Nice.
For me, it's because obviously it was in the Game of the Year at that award show. And it was the one that
We don't do
yeah,
it that
we don't
way.
do that. It was the one on there that I'm like, it could win purely because it does everything right, but it doesn't do anything spectacular.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
was what I kind of needed from the because the PS5 launch hadn't really had that.
Mm-hmm.
Like Miles was kind of there, but it was still feeling like a previous gen. It
Yep.
was just
Yep.
it was nice to have an experience that was tailored.
Demon Souls was amazing, but an old game that
Yeah.
got remade. Yeah, totally.
It's like
yeah.
it was cool to have a brand new experience for the console that was made for it, and it just did so much right.
I think it would have made my
it-
list
it-
if it wasn't for the fact that it didn't capitalize on the Rift thing in the way
Yeah.
that we all thought it would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it and Return? I can't think of it and Returnal as anything else that I played on my PS5 because it was exclusive. I'm not-
Deathloop as well.
well,
Definitely
but-
was on PC. Yeah.
yeah, but that's
Yeah, I think it's-
So
Yeah.
that's why. Yeah,
About it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those were
Yeah.
the
It
two
it really
games I
feels
got
like
mine
it. But
out
that one in particular, you're right, did definitely
just-
feel
yeah.
like the
And-
PlayStation mascot as well.
It has to have influenced you. You may be a little bit biased based on how good your Clank voice
yeah.
is.
Oh dear.
Oh dear.
There it is.
You are the character. So.
My 7 is Guardians of the Galaxy. Love this game. Love this story. It would be higher if I liked the game part more. The game part was totally fine for me, but yeah, the storytelling is amazing. The characterization is amazing. I was not expecting to love this game, and I really did. And I think that there is something really special about that when you just are so prepared to be underwhelmed and you're actually overwhelmed by something. Really creative, and I'm so happy that Nikki is a character that if we get a sequel, we're going to keep seeing because I love her. So happy. Yeah, I mean, just a joyous experience, and I'm sure we'll hear about it more later on in this episode. Gus, you're 6.
Was Ratchet. That was Ratchet and Clank for me. Rift Apart was 6. Everything Will said, really enjoyed it. Again, came along at the right time that I was like, I've never played a game in that series before. I didn't really know those characters, and I thought it was a really great introduction for someone who was new to it. It felt like playing a kid's platformer, but I still found it challenging and engaging. It didn't feel like it was on a Nintendo game being super easy. I loved just any time if I did get a little bored with the game, I'd just look at the game and go like, this looks so damn polished. Everything, it had that that kind of Guardians thing that you mentioned, Pete, where you come around the corner and you're like, another world? And it would just be so fleshed out, the skybox, the draw distance, the detail, the character animations. And I loved Rivet. I really loved the new character they brought in, and that you spent probably more time with her. I want that character in the next game, and I thought that was a great addition that didn't feel like, what do we do next? Just copy-paste a character, which they literally did in terms of the partnership and everything, but I thought that was great, and I'm ready to be a fan of that franchise now. So,
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it was lovely.
Awesome.
My number 6 was Dread Hunger. Peter's already talked about it, but I think for me, I really loved, it was the first time I got to play a deception game like that in a 3D environment, and putting us all in a survival situation where you're so focused on just trying to stay alive and warm and fed while someone is trying to sabotage your mission is just such an interesting dynamic. And the more we played it, the more I got to know things about my friends. And it was a joy and a real surprise.
Yep. My number 6, Road 96.
Hey.
Everything you said about it, I feel the same, and it's one of those games that, again, was so early in the year and has stuck with me as a really positive gaming experience and a really different gaming experience to anything else that I've played and anything else that I played this year. Absolutely, and most things that I can remember playing, like. It's such an interesting new take. It's not necessarily a bunch of new ideas, but it used the ideas that it wanted to really effectively. Little story beats and like a puzzle of a story kind of being built up was put it on you to do a lot of the work, and that was a really nice thing to be able to go through.
It was cool. I remember you played it, we all got it, and then you were the one who started it first. And I think it was like 11:30 at night. A message just pops up in Slack, and it's like, Road 96 is so good. And I was like, oh, I'm really excited for this. Because you said, like, I meant to play for 20 minutes, and I played for 3 hours. And so, yeah. Oh, a really special game.
My number 6 is Before Your Eyes. Just speaking of unique and just I cried a lot last night in a movie, but I cried a lot more in this. Like you guys talked about it. It's just there's nothing. I've never played a game that has just hurt me. that has physically hurt me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
No, I totally hear you. And these kind of catharsis games, I guess, is one way you could consider them. Started, in my mind, kind of started to become a thing with That Dragon Cancer many years ago, and it was a father who lost his child developing this game to kind of, for him to have some kind of emotional closure or to give him something to do, and this kind of storytelling feels like it's now being more refined and treated with some mechanics that really harness the emotional power of them, and I've never played anything like Before Your Eyes.
No, at all. Yeah.
Yeah, spectacular.
I will eventually.
My number 6 is Deathloop, and I just love Deathloop so much. It's such a pure video game. It's just such a video game. The things that, like, Gus, you didn't really like, or some of the things you didn't really like about it, are kind of the things that I like how bifurcated it all is, that it is like, get your load out and go into this area and do this thing and accomplish this thing. I'm such a sucker for anything time loopy, but I think it's the one game this year that I just went back to from a pure mechanical perspective of just going, I'm having so much fun exploring this world. I love sort of systems-based games like that, and immersive sim sort of stuff, and this scratched a lot of those itches. I think a really special game, and I love the characters, the writing, the characters. The story's a bit of a letdown, but the vibe of the game was just so strong that,
and
I
you need
loved
to
every
have that
minute.
kind of like end of the world on loop party goers fatigued
Yeah.
or crazed.
Yeah,
Like, it was a
very
cool
cool
style
setting.
treatment that like hadn't really seen before.
Totally.
It was Bioshock if the party was fun.
Yeah. Oh, and it's a
While the
Bioshock.
party was still happening.
Bioshock, Bioshock is just
party never
Deathloop
ends.
without the loop. It's just the
Yeah,
end of
yeah.
the end of the
That's
day.
the point.
Yeah.
5.
Number 5 for me was The Artful Escape, which I'd been seeing a lot of in its lead up over the years in its development, and finally got to play and had a really fun, I think a 1-session playthrough, which is why it's such a treasured memory. It's sort of like it was this sit down and just blast through it. Really inventive, really creatively unleashed a lot of talent. Friend of the show, Johnny Galvatron, who made this very batshit crazy story, but it was like, clearly it had been reined in to be like a really wonderfully told story. It wasn't just wacky for the sense of wacky. There was a proper narrative of someone in the shadow of a family member who had been successful, and so there were proper themes that were actually you could connect to. It wasn't just I'm on a wacky space adventure in a cool spacesuit kind of thing, but you did go on a wacky space adventure and you got to wear a cool spacesuit and you got to be called the glamorous Goose Mangus, and like these moments of just of course, yeah, but and then just combined with some gameplay, some very basic gameplay elements that felt fantastic but were very simple, just button presses that sounded like perfect note strums, little mini audio games that were actually quite simple in premise but looked fabulous and sounded amazing, and so just gave you these real fist pump moments, which is I think what they were going for in the development of that.
I hope he goes on to make lots of really great stuff. I feel like a lot of the time we have really kind of charismatic, quirky developers like Peter Molyneux or David Cage or something that often have like bad games associated with them because they're
He had
so
a lot of
they're
charisma in the early days.
yeah. That kind of, have a very specific vision and become known more as the developer than the game is kind of. You know what I mean?
Like Cliff Bleszinski and
Yeah.
the auteurs of video games.
And I feel like he has the capacity to kind of be as well known, but if he continues on this track for games that I think
He also has the name.
Sorry?
He also has the name.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's right.
But yeah,
And if games don't work out, porn is just ready there for him.
But yeah, very, very, I think only kind of like 3 or 4 hours long, and so very consumable in 1 or 2 sittings, and just a great adventure. It was heaps of fun.
Artful Escape.
Cool.
That was 5.
Yeah.
That's 5. Steph?
My 5 was Before Your Eyes. I think I heard Peter talking about it and I was instantly curious about the mechanic.
Got me sobbing about it.
It's sobbing about it. It's very hard to develop like original mechanics in video games, without, as you've mentioned in the past, it being very gimmicky.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this, used the mechanic to tell the story in a way that best lent itself to to that mechanic, which is so clever. And I think so much of it was me feeling that I was not in control of what was happening, and that being such a wonderful kind of metaphor for life, I guess. And I was really impressed with it, and just the fact that it mechanically worked so well was really great as well.
Pete.
Yeah, my number 5 was Wrestle Dunk Spots.
Well, we're
Way too low on everyone else's list. I assume it's everyone else's number 1 because it hasn't come up for everyone else. What a joy.
Yeah.
And friend of the show, Matt Trobiani, Aussie developer, has had an incredible career of independent titles from Hacknet and to come up with Wrestle Dunk after
What a pivot too, though, from
what he was known for. Exactly, totally. And and it just shows that core game design is so important, and Matt seems to find a core concept and just really, really stick the landing. And Wrestle Dunk is so simple, but just the most brilliant fun.
Yeah, it is. It's a fantastic game. It is a great game. It is not on my list, but it should be.
My number 5, been mentioned a few times, is Deathloop. All the things that have been said. The addition of I've never really been able to get into a Dishonored or any of the arcane kind of games.
Yeah.
It's just never worked for me. So the first time I
is it the immersive sim stuff or is it the stealth stuff?
I just don't know. I don't know. I've just never. It's never really.
Yeah, it's just never clicked. Yeah.
But the first time I blinked in this, I was like, it's like Dishonored, and I was like, oh no. And I kept playing. I'm like, oh, this is all working, and it's just it felt like just the perfect meld of all the things they've done, and it was similar to Ratchet and Clank. It's this is a nice entry to their types of games, so I'm excited to now maybe enjoy Dishonored.
Yeah,
it's everything about it is just cool, apart from that damn story. What a letdown.
My number, what am I up to?
5.
5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's right. My number 5 is Halo Infinite multiplayer. I was not expecting to become a Halo person, but it has taken over COD as my shooter of choice. I'm having just so much fun with it. I've tried to play original Halo this year, or Master Chief Collection Halo, and it's too slow for me, and I'm not really interested in it. This is just the most pure gameplay fun imaginable. Even with the qualms I have with progression, the fact that stuff that will all be fixed, it's easily changed. What is here is something that I can see myself actually settling into for years, and it sounds like they have that roadmap ahead of them, that they want me to be doing that. I was shocked at how much I love this game.
Yeah, I was too scared to put it on my list because of what it's doing to me and how it's affecting me, and that I don't consider it a game this year. It's just something that I'm doing now. The multiplayer in particular. That's... I just was that's not really for me what I would... It's so... I'm echoing everything else.
You're saying that I'm a braver man than you.
Oh, sure. Let's go with that.
Are you saying you're not that guy? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, it just didn't... It didn't register as something to put on this list because I'm
as though it's always been there?
Yeah, and it will be there forever going ahead, so I don't need to categorize it in the way everything else has been a little tent pole.
It's above these petty lists.
It really is.
He's saying Halo just is. Halo is yours.
Yeah. Is the alpha and the omega.
Halo is a part of me. It is the air I breathe.
It is
the classic Gus, that one.
I was too scared to put it on the list. But just a pure joyous multiplayer experience that makes me furious as well. Number 4.
Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite single player. Campaign.
Okay.
Show me your list.
It is. So it's
Can you not just say? Can you not just say Halo? Halo?
No, but no.
Well, when I saw he put multiplayer,
I genuinely, I think they are two very separate things.
Okay.
Not to me.
If I loop the campaign in, it doesn't make it onto my top 10. But if I just carve out the multiplayer, it's an easy fight.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The reason this isn't higher up for me is because I'm just talking about the single player, which I have not finished. I'm halfway through. I'm really enjoying. I love the idea of this sort of reboot of sorts, the way they are kind of taking back and realizing what at its core is really fun, or reinventing what is the core fun of the single player, of the story they can tell, of the sandbox they can play in. But I want the next game in the series. I see all the promise in this one. I see all the things they're refining, but I feel like it was a bit too safe of a step to take in terms of what they've turned it into as a single player game. And so yeah, I'm super excited for them to build on all of this stuff, for them to take a few more risks. It feels a bit too safe, but my God, is it fun? Is it just moment to moment? So much fun.
I think based on development, it's lucky that there's even anything to play.
Yeah.
I don't think safety was their plan. I think safety was what they got out was all that they could do.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they were like, oh, we shouldn't give you more
No,
biomes. It was that we can't build them.
Yeah.
They couldn't work out anything in that engine that they even a year ago were like, do we need to switch engines?
Yeah.
Wow.
They were panicking. And what they managed to accomplish in the last 12 months is nothing short of an incredible feat.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious because that seems to be the legacy of Halo. Because if you watch that Power on Microsoft documentary, they talk about the first Halo a ton, and they go, oh yeah, up until almost the day before release, we were ripping levels out and going, none of this works. We got to get rid of this, and then it's a masterpiece. And it's just like, what is it about this franchise that makes up until release they're just like, we're fucked, and then it comes out and everyone's like, we love it.
Good work, everyone.
But yeah, I feel a little bit of that in it, but as I mentioned, it's just so much fun. I can't wait to keep playing on through the single player campaign. And yeah.
And you're terrified to
And
go
I'm
back.
terrified of the multiplayer, but yeah.
Steph, you're number 4.
I had it in my head and I lost it. My number 4 is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Hey.
Yay! We've talked about this a lot on our game club stream, so make sure you check that out on our YouTube channel.
That you're watching right now.
Which you're on.
But yeah, it was such a wonderful surprise to me, and I was so impressed with how the focus was on their relationship with each other, how they functioned as a team, and I feel like I want to go watch the movies again now with this understanding of the characters, because I feel like I will enjoy the movies more. I wish these characters were real people and were the movie, but I feel like I can still enjoy the movie knowing that I have a deeper understanding of what makes these characters so great.
I wanted to hug all of them.
Me too. Yeah.
Even the llama.
Even the llama.
And it's just, I feel like it speaks to a real shift in, I guess, society is changing and how we talk about feelings and mental health and all that kind of stuff. And so much of the focus of this game was just checking in with each other. How are you feeling? I learned something about your past that speaks to a trauma that you've lived through.
Your fears.
And and I want to just make sure that you're okay, because we're going through some stuff right now. And if you're not okay, then I want to address that with you.
Yeah.
And
if you're not
so
okay,
nice.
we as a team are
not okay. Yeah.
As a family.
Yeah.
So,
It was really great. It had a lot of really wonderful themes. The performances were all fantastic. I agree in that the gameplay wasn't like ideal, but it was fun enough that I never was like frustrated by it in a massive way. So
Cool.
yeah, amazing. What a surprise.
Number 4 for me was It Takes Two. A brilliant game. We all agree. And yeah, we've said it, I think, enough about it. But I think for me, just to reiterate what I found so amazing about it was that it just kept being surprising in how the game play evolved throughout the entire thing. It didn't necessarily evolve. It just changed constantly. It wasn't like, oh, you learned something before and you're using an advanced version of that. No, you're doing something entirely different now. Relearn the game every time you walk around a corner was such a bold thing for them to try and accomplish, and they nailed it. It was just brilliant. Yeah, I fall.
Yes. My number 4 is The Artful Escape. Everything you said, I did in one session as well, with my lights mirroring the screen. And that game is just
cool.
Whoa. It's like this crazy experience. So
Philips
definitely
Hue,
worth doing
sponsor
that.
this man.
I'll take him.
What was your title?
It was I don't remember because I didn't think that.
The
much
wonderful
of it.
The Mighty Goose Mangus. Wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Glamorous.
I did take
Oh,
that, yeah.
glamorous. Sorry.
And I will say, among the color, the music, and everything, I will say one of the best things is that custom costume designer. It's like there is so much detail. I'm surprised by the
You
amount
go
of
through
costumes.
an abandoned 80s mall on a weird planet that's just empty, playing like the echoes of a like an 80s synth track on speakers in a mall as you just go into shops and try things on, and just you do 2 levels of it, and by the end you come out, you're you're like, oh my god, I'm like some kind of Ziggy Stardust superhero. It's great.
It was super cool. So yeah, being able to play that for the rest of the campaign, and yeah, it's just great that it's Aussie as well. It's
Yep.
always nice.
I have to play this game. I stopped.
Dinosaur
I
and-
stopped it right before it starts getting
Yeah.
good.
Dinosaur and Beethoven, I think, was the
Yes, is
developers.
the developer.
Yeah.
My number 4 is Before Your Eyes, and again, I don't have anything to add to. Well, I do. No, I echo everything that's been said. I think as well. This one obviously hits hard for me having kids, and as I was playing it, my I played it like I think I started it at 10 o'clock at night, so I finished it at about midnight, and as we all were, just weeping, and I then walked into my son's room, and he's just asleep in his bed, and I'm standing there in the dark, crying, just looking at him, just going like, I can't protect you forever, but oh my god! And I then just picked him up and hugged him, and he kind of woke up a little bit, and hopefully he doesn't remember, because it would be traumatizing. Your dad walks in crying, picks you up, and hugs you. He's like, something is terribly wrong. But I'm getting emotional actually thinking about it now. I just think the performances are incredible. I love the art style as well.
Yeah.
It's like that sort of minimalist, fuzzy, like focused look. Yeah, I just, oh god, brutal game.
Yeah.
And so beautiful. Yeah, that's my number 4. Gus,
Number 3.
number 3.
All right, so we're down to our top 3s.
Yes.
Which will go into a bit of detail. My number 3 was a little darling on the Switch. It was also on PC, but I played it entirely or the whole way through on Switch, was Eastward. This was this wonderful... kind of like throwback nostalgia list to...
We're gonna have to cut that out.
Spoilers!
Actually, like go to full screen Eastwood for just a second. I reckon.
Yeah, easy. This was this wonderful sort of nostalgic throwback to the days of Super Nintendo games like I can't remember the name. What's the one that everyone played that was like a kid in a baseball cap? Earthbound. Had like an Earthbound vibe to it. All these really well fleshed out characters, beautiful music, really charming art style. It's the one that had that full cutscene at the beginning that I showed you guys.
Yeah.
Like an anime that showed you the whole thing like it was a TV
yeah,
series.
yeah,
And
I
then you
remember,
dove
yeah.
into it and you were like finding all these moments and exploring all these moments.
Yeah.
You played as this voiceless protagonist, John, who was totally uninteresting in every aspect of him, but the character that comes along with you is Sam, who is this beautiful, positive little like child you just want to care for, but has so much sort of independent spirit and all this sort of stuff. And it just like every character I met, I wanted to listen to, read every bit of dialogue, not skip through it. It was really well written. There was something seriously sinister going on, which actually dragged me through it all in terms of like personality types and sort of like the innocence of childlike nature and the fact that it was all happening in this world that was really dark, really dour, really depressing at the beginning, and it after a couple of hours completely opens up into this beautiful art style that just absolutely just dragged my eyeballs through it. I was like, I can't stop playing this. I just have to see where this is going. And it felt like it was going somewhere directed. It didn't feel like it was just whimsical for the sake of whimsical. Let's put a level here with some new enemy types. It was like every little story beat had like an interesting character motivation that I wanted to help them with or I wanted to assist. And again, the last thing I'll say is that just the character of Sam was just trying to stay positive and happy in this world where there were good characters, but everyone was just a bit touched by this end of the world kind of nature of misinformation and all, and like it just has some real punch in the heart moments that I was not expecting. And then the fact that it just felt like I was playing something on Super Nintendo as a 16-year-old again or something. It was just tapping into that in terms of how it played and how it felt to do the combat and the little mission structure. It was just so damn wonderful, and I think it flew under a lot of people's radars as like, oh, it's nostalgic looking for the sake of it, but it felt appropriate to the way the game played and the way the story was told. It was just so wonderful, and I can't believe I finished it.
Yeah, because it's like a 20-hour game or something.
Yeah, maybe a bit over.
Was there a lot of filler content in it?
No.
I just get wary when I head into RPGs. Like, I love everything you've said. I'm like, I'm so into that. But then I'm like, oh, God, do I have...
I don't think...
No?
I had moments that felt like this is where the filler stuff would go, but I was always curious to get to the end of it because that some character had sent me on that quest, and I actually really wanted to see what they would say when I came back and how they would then change something in the world for me, and they always did. And yeah, as I said, that combined with the fact that there are little moments of Sam and John thinking they've found a new home and trying to set up shop there and things inevitably going not great and seeing how that affects all the characters around them happens a few times in different ways. But my God, it was like you really wanted these characters to just be safe. It had like a Last of Us vibe, not just through the age and, father-daughter vibe, but like you wanted them to be safe and happy. And everywhere they went, they'd meet positive people and you just knew things weren't going to go well. And it was like, oh man. So absolute like indie darling. And I'd highly recommend it to anyone because it was just, a delight.
Awesome.
That's what's my number 3.
Your number 3.
My number 3 is Unpacking by Aussie developer Witchbeam, which was, unless anyone is aware of anything similar to this, I feel like Witchbeam have created a genre of game that is like unpacking simulator, but it's not a sim. It's not just a sim game in the way other games try to kind of replicate a task in real life.
Exactly, yeah.
It's a storytelling medium, but also kind of tapping into the specific joy we get from organizing things and doing things in a certain way. And I think we all have certain idiosyncrasies about us in terms of how we like to organize our lives and the importance we place on certain objects. But this game allowed us to kind of do that and get to know characters without any dialogue or text. And it was so clever. And there were parts of it when I was getting frustrated because I couldn't put things where I wanted to put them, or I felt things should have gone in a certain way. And it was just frustrating enough in that sense because that was kind of the puzzle element where you had to try and make things work. And that's life, right? Like you don't always have the space to do the things that you want to do and you have to kind of make the best of it. But I think also so much of this person's personality and life and experiences were told through their possessions in such a lovely way that I really feel like I got to the end of it and I felt sad to let them go, and I was sad that I didn't know them, and I felt like there was so much that was being communicated to me through this game. There was one, I think I spoke about this, and this is a spoiler if you intend to play it, so just don't listen for a second. But there was one scene where, there's one room that you were unpacking where you kind of have obviously started a relationship with this guy, and you're suddenly moving into his very slick apartment, and you're trying to fit your belongings in around all of his stuff, and you can't move any of his stuff. You can only fit your things around what's already there.
Yes, yeah.
And as you're kind of unpacking all of your kind of quirky little nerdy sort of things that really don't gel with his very kind of slick bachelor pad, you start to realize that there are some things that you can't fit anywhere. And one of them is your like university degree, this thing that you're really proud of and that you earned. There's no spot for it. And in the end, you realize the only place you can put it really is under the bed. And it was just such a telling symbol of what that relationship is. And it was really lovely. As soon as it was over and I'd completed that sort of journey, I instantly wanted to play a sequel. If they put out a sequel tomorrow, I would play it.
Yeah.
I loved streaming it. I loved playing it with other people and having them weigh in on where they think certain things should go, or what I was learning about cultural items. I was like, what is this? And somebody was like, oh, that's actually from the Jewish religion, and it's this. And then I was looking it up and I was like, oh, okay. And you would kind of unlock pieces of information about them that kind of taught you things, and it was just really nice. And it was relatable in the fact that we've all been in those situations where we're trying to kind of uproot ourselves and settle in somewhere, and the objects that have carried through from place to place right through to the end were really important as well. I thought it was going to be a game where you were just kind of performing a task for the kind of menial joy of doing just that, because that's totally a thing in and of itself. But it was so much more, and I was so impressed. And
choose which way to put the toilet paper.
It's always over.
Every object has a different sound effect depending on what surface you put it on.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. Like if you put it on the floor or if you put it on the bed or a shelf or in the closet, it has a different, like they've recorded a different Foley sound for each of those things depending on what the item is and what the surface is. It changes. And it's so detailed. There's so many little details. And the more you kind of spend time looking at the objects as you're placing them around, the more you're kind of uncovering about that person's life and the experience that they've had and who they are. And this is their D&D group, and this person has popped up in their life a few times, and this object keeps coming with her for some reason, and then you start to see why that object is connected to another object and what that means. It's just, I was so impressed with it, and I really hope that not only Witchbeam makes more games like this, but I hope this becomes a genre that other people try to tell stories through, because it was a joy.
And I got to say, one of the most satisfying things in games this year is emptying one of the cardboard boxes and hitting it and it disappears.
Everyone loves that, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
My downstairs storage room in our house has about 150 boxes in it, and it's just like, get them out of my...
Just cuts to Nick with a big bonfire out the back. Like, well, this works for me.
Unpacking. Yeah, I have to play this. I've got it installed. I keep
Yeah.
resisting, and no one has said a negative thing about it.
But it's also like, because there's no dialogue or anything, you could play this while you were doing something else, I think, as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
If you really want it, if it's really like something that you can't devote time to at the moment, you can kind of have it.
Yeah. I might give it to Beck. I reckon Beck might
Sure, yeah.
get a kick out of it.
Yeah.
Pete.
Yep.
Number 3.
My number 3 is Before Your Eyes.
There it is.
So it made it all the way up into my top 3, and I think for good reason.
But understand,
Sorry,
no matter how much
just touch. Everything we've already said about it.
every time you blink,
I just didn't expect to have this kind of experience this year, and I think that, like, for all the things that it does that are new, you know, you can take those and go, oh wow, that's what an incredible idea, that the blinking mechanic that skips you forward, and how important that is to the story, and how desperate you are to not do that. And then there's like things like this character and this whole scene which appears multiple times throughout the story as well. Also beautifully executed, beautifully written. There's not a moment in the game that doesn't feel so perfectly crafted to this game, and it's such an unbelievable accomplishment, and I will always remember this game. You know, there are games that Game of the Year some years, and it's like,
Did
oh
this
yeah,
get
I remember playing
nominated
that.
at the Game Awards for anything?
I don't think so. Maybe
It feels like
an indie game.
A game that flew so under the radar.
Yeah.
How did you find out about it?
We heard about it on maybe in a podcast.
I heard
recently.
about it on a podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, an interview with the developer.
Maybe I just saw it on Steam or something, but I downloaded it and had played it, and then you were like, this thing, and I was like, this thing, and it was it just is.
How long is it again from go to watch?
About 2 hours.
It's like a film.
Maybe a little over, yeah. But
the other two things about it, because the game has you play the first half and then you play the second half. It's a game of two parts, I suppose. And what it does in the first half is takes these moments that are quite unassuming for a lot of it, of different parts of your life, because you are growing up from a child to an adult, and it is just like most of those moments are really just small, nothing moments, but really capture that part of your life. I think in a broadly universal kind of way. There is obviously you're dealing with like, well, I don't want to say too much about the story, but you're dealing with like, you know, a pretty stereotypical family unit. But it is just so many moments there where it's like, oh God, that is so the vibe of that age. That age is so perfectly captured. And then the second half of the game becomes about something so specific.
Yeah.
And it is so elegant in the transition from the very broad to the very specific, but all of it feels true.
yeah. And the weight of the very specific is amplified so much by everything you've done up to that point. That it's a gut punch. We've all mentioned that we're crying. That moment where you realize what's happening is just so powerful.
Yeah.
I I think we were getting teary thinking about it.
Yeah.
But it's just like I just can't believe how well they put this together.
Remind me, because it's installed. I will play. Remind me, it's purely just, are you controlling with a controller or something just to move ahead? Or is it
you can move your head with
a mouse? or
A
something?
mouse.
Yep, and then it's blinking to blink through parts, but
Yeah.
also the progression.
There-
but
there's
also-
there's parts where the game where that sort of wolf character is talking to you at the beginning. You like blinking doesn't matter there.
Yes.
An icon comes up and when it says like next time you blink, the scene will change.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
there's stuff that plays out and then that. But yeah, it is a very it is like watching a film, dude. Like it's literally just like sit down for 2 hours. You're just gonna get it out in one and just carve out 2 hours and very special
If
game.
you get something like a bit of dust in your eye, it could be a half-hour experience.
yeah.
It was like, oh no. Sneeze and you're at the end. It's
Yeah.
like,
Oh, it's done.
I do want to try if you put the glasses on.
With the fake
Well,
eyes.
it affects your
When
eyes.
it cuts off sentences halfway because you blink.
It's so elegant with that. It is so like you and you're just like come back.
Yeah.
Oh.
No.
And that's the power of the writing is it's so good.
You don't wanna miss
and
a
so
moment of it.
natural and
Yep.
and the truth of it is so there that you are desperate to hear everything the game has to offer and you know you miss some of it. And they've built it in a way that allows them to cut off whatever, they may have recorded 3 minutes of dialogue and knowing that you're only going to make it to 90 seconds, but it's there. Like it feels like I missed stuff, and that's an important part of selling the idea as well.
Yeah.
And just really quickly, the other thing with it, I think it's a game that you could give to nearly anyone.
Yep.
There's no barrier of entry unless you don't have eyes.
or a camera.
Or a camera. Yeah, you don't need a webcam. But it's also a game that I think in 20 years' time will still feel fresh.
Yep.
It won't really age in the same way as like a Guardians will or something where you're going like, oh, there's all these mechanics and the way like the look is hyper stylized. The like everything about it, I think in 20 years' time I'm going to
Control is
show
super
this
minimal.
to people.
Yeah.
Like when my kids get older, I'm going to show them this game.
Yeah.
And it's great. Will, you're number 3.
Beautiful.
This is so hard to describe why this is on at number 3. It's a personal list.
It's personal list. I want everyone to remember
I love
Yeah.
the caveat.
no judgment zone.
Yeah.
This is a no judgment zone.
It's my number 3 is Lake.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I
Wow.
know. I know it's here.
Lake.
So this is the mail delivery game. I only know about this because of the game plan, and which was heavily joked. It's like, what is this game? What is the point of this game?
Yep.
And it is that. You play Meredith, and she delivers mail in a little town that she grew up in. She's come home because it's such a weird setup. She's come home because her parents are out of town, so she's looking after the house. Her dad also used to deliver mail, so she's stepped in for his job as well. And it's just a really nice nothing game in terms. It's like if a Telltale game didn't have a point. Is what it is. Like you know how it's like a driving narrative.
Or
in
if a
itself.
Telltale game wasn't hung on an IP, it's just like
you
yeah.
live in this experience.
I totally understand where you're coming from because one of the most like profound films that experience I've had of like the last since being an avid film watcher was The Place Beyond the Pines.
Yeah.
And that is a film that doesn't have a beginning or an end.
Yeah.
It's just moments in a life.
Yeah.
And it's so captivating. And it's not I mean there's drama because films need drama, but it's not necessarily about those individual moments of drama. It's just about going like there's lives happen.
Lives are
That's
happening
like the
around
message
us,
is that lives happen and they're different and everyone's experience is different. And I feel like that's maybe what you've pulled out of this as
Totally,
well,
yeah.
is that someone's just living their life and that's an intriguing thing to be witness to.
And like even the relationships you form, there's a few people that you know that are still in the town. There's new people, and like how normal and how real they kind of are. There's nothing stylized about it. I also say I played it twice, not on purpose. I got to a point in the game where it was purely broken, and I had an email conversation with the devs.
Wow.
Because I think I was the only person playing it. So eventually, and I was like, this isn't working. And I had to explain to them what I did to get to that. Like, it was one of those weird
Yep.
chapter bugs.
But he was doing it all by handwritten mail.
It took a while.
Get there, yep.
And then because of that, I played it from start to finish again on stream. And
Yep.
that was also a really cool experience. There's tiny little diversions in story. I think there's like 3 endings.
What do you think the developer wanted to communicate with this game?
I don't know. I wonder if
They
they've
wanted to
had.
test if they could make a game.
Yeah.
And-
Can I just? I think it's hilarious that Will is defending this so much, and we're all going like, "Oh, this game about delivering packages." Meanwhile, you had a 10-minute soliloquy about unpacking a box, and everyone's like, "Game of the year," and Will's like, "I don't know."
I don't know why. I don't know what they're into. There's no drive.
If he was confident, we'd be confident.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I don't know why it's here. I played it twice.
I don't know why it's here.
He gave you an out.
I agree with that, but it's still just.
But it's good when you can't quite put your finger on what it is,
yeah.
why it stayed with you,
the
why...
fact I played for it a 5-hour game twice because I needed to get to the ending.
Well, a lot of people are going to get the chance because it just popped on Game Pass.
Totally.
So I think it popped up yesterday.
Personally, I'm too scared to put this on my own. Blake just is, okay? And it always will be.
Ah, beautiful.
That's great.
Yeah,
Those are the
Yeah,
little
yeah,
things
yeah. I
that
love that.
sneak through and that, yeah.
And I've never. I've started to become a mail person because it brings up like all your deliveries, and I was like, oh, I wonder what the fastest route is. And so because there's so many days, like I think it's 2 weeks, so there's about 14 days you live through, and it got to a point where I memorized the town and was like, I know that this dude always gets this like there was it was surprising how much that was in the game as
You
well.
were the postie.
Yeah.
You knew which dog was going to run up.
There was a cat lady.
Because we've moved to, it's not a regional area, but it's a sort of a smaller area.
Yeah.
After we'd been living there for a while, and I was up at the train station, and I saw our postie, and he was like, "Steph," and I was like, "Hello." He goes, "Got a package for you. Do you want it now?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll take it now." And that was the first like small town moment I had. Where I was like,
Yep. Love it.
"Wow."
Love it. All right, that is Lake.
Lake.
And Will doesn't know
don't know
why
why
he
it's
likes
here.
it. Yep.
Wasn't there a glitch you could like drive across the lake or something?
That's true, yeah. So if you wanted to get back to the post station as quickly as possible, the only reference to the lake, apart from the town being built around it, is you could just drive into the lake, and it would respawn you back at the post office, and you could finish.
That's
the
great.
day.
That's what you
That's
did,
great.
yeah. So every day you finish, like, well,
I'm done.
It's like if Halo
Into
Infinite
the sea.
was just called FOB. Okay, cool. My number 3 game, and I'll tell you what, the Aussie devs have been getting represented on this show. We've got
Yeah.
Unpacking, we've got Wrestle Dunk Sports,
Artful Escape.
Artful Escape, and it is my turn with The Forgotten City. Oh my goodness, The Forgotten City. This was jostling for my number 1 spot. The time loop game based off the mod from Skyrim, from the developers Modern Storyteller. We had Nick Pierce, the lead writer and director of the game, on the show, which was a fantastic interview with so much insight. This is a really great game. I think that the story is really fun. The lip sync is really awful, but the story of going to this underground city, not knowing what's going on, trying to solve this puzzle. This time loop thing is such catnip for me, and what I think elevates it above a lot of other titles like this is not only is the story quite easy to understand and coherent, which a lot of time loop stories are not, but it also understands that you are going to be playing this loop quite a bit, so we're going to make it as frictionless as possible for you to get back to the thing.
And minimize the repetition.
Yeah, like the genius idea of walking out of the thing every time you reset and that guy is standing there and you're like, I need you to go do X, Y, and Z, which is all the stuff that you've done. And he runs off and literally does it all.
And you can see him
and you
doing
can follow
it,
him do
yeah.
it. And just going, that is brilliant because every run is actually just new information. It is not a repetition.
I love that's the thing you put your finger on is like there's a really elegant solution to finding how that. I'm like there's also zip lines. It's like you just don't want to walk around it as much anymore. So there's flying foxes around this town. Like, cool.
Which Nick said. It's like just put him in there to make sure that people can get around fast.
I loved it. It was so great that when we had the dev on the show as well, it was such an insight into this process. This was a Skyrim mod.
A Skyrim mod, yeah.
He was also like, we didn't really have anyone on our team who knew how to like animate character models. We were just kind of teaching ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's amazing that
Totally.
they've done that.
And
it's such an impressive feat of game making from people who had a clear idea, but maybe not the experience to execute it, but did it anyway.
And it really feels like a film. Like it has a really strong, just like, this is the one narrative that you're going through. The puzzles are interesting without being really bang your head against the wall. At no point was I like, I need to look this up. I need
Someone
to figure
literally-
out- that person
Footage
does not know
is
what's going
literally
on right
banging-
now.
The footage we're watching of someone literally banging
It's
their
so
head
good.
against a wall to get up some vines
Which
and
is
then
hilarious.
resetting.
Google how to climb vines.
and the writing is really good. So yeah, this was just
The voice
this was
acting,
a great
yeah, is
surprise.
great.
The voice acting is great. This was a real surprise. I remembered playing that original mod and being impressed with it, but kind of just going, oh, okay.
and a great mystery.
And a great mystery, yeah. And just really special. So if you have not played the Forgotten City, it is just, yeah, it is a really special
That
game. I
is
thoroughly
on
recommend.
Game Pass too.
It is on Game Pass, yes. It came to Game
Cloud
Pass pretty
saves as
recently,
well,
yeah.
I think, so it bounces around between. I've got
So
the
good.
PC, but I'm gonna.
And you can play it multiple times, I think, because I've got one ending of.
Yes,
many.
there are three or four
Four?
endings.
Four.
Yeah, yeah. And I got them all, and they're all good.
Great.
Gus, your number 2 game.
Number 2 for me, it's been talked about a bit already, but It Takes Two for my number 2 was just so much fun. Obviously, everything we said. The thing I keep coming back to is, yes, there's the great reinventing of gameplay mechanics at every turn, but the part of me that loves this is the idea that they made it asymmetrical co-op in a way that there is 2 full playthroughs for you there that will be decently different, and that, as we just said before, you play this with someone. You have to. There is no play it with an AI or play it by yourself. Like, this game forces you to have an experience and share it. And I think that's so special and something that doesn't happen enough in games. As much as we are a good group of mates that want to play games all the time, we literally played Dread Hunger and maybe one other multiplayer game this year together. But Nick and I played through all of this together, and that's very rare. We haven't played games together, and I'll treasure the fact that we had to be like, got a little bit of time, let's sit down, play a few hours. And then it did special things like, one thing I really enjoyed was how in a game, if something is funny, if I'm playing it, I won't laugh. Why would I laugh? Who am I laughing for? It's like,
It's like
you
watching
know,
a comedy by yourself.
exactly. It's like, but we
But
would
you don't
see-
laugh at a funny thing?
It has to be really fun.
It has to be like
Right.
really funny.
Laugh out loud?
Do you mean
by
like
yourself?
when you're by yourself?
You recognize that it's funny, and you might go,
Yeah.
but you
Maybe
don't go.
you will smile. But how often have you laughed at home by yourself? No one else is even in the house.
If I'm watching Curb Your Enthusiasm or something by myself, I'm laughing.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
you're the
he does.
outlier.
I hear him laughing a lot.
But that's because you're in the house.
Yes, but
So you're not
at
alone.
we're
Different
opposite
room.
ends of the house.
I'm not-
It's
I'm not
different.
laughing
That's
for her.
different. It is still
I'm
different.
laughing for me.
I
know
know
someone
I
will
know.
hear it.
No. He's not laughing because he knows I will hear
Why
it.
would I
He's
laugh?
laughing because he's laughing. For me,
Stop ruining.
It's the same as when I. It's the same as when I do my ha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on this.
Thank you,
Go
Nick.
ahead. Yep.
weird.
But we would laugh at the things that
Express
were.
yourself.
We would laugh at the things that were maybe
Yeah.
not the funniest thing in the world, but they were humorous.
Yeah.
And you would laugh naturally. You wouldn't force it for the other person. And Nick would do the same back. And it was just a nice thing to experience, to be in earshot of someone, to be like, we're enjoying this on a different kind of level, that's in a different way that
Yeah.
I
Who's forcing it for another person? Like a fake orgasm. Like why would she?
just focus on the game stuff. Stop trying to pretend to know how people work.
But
but no, I
that was
totally
really
agree.
special.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like, not just for funny things, but for weird moments that we both
Yeah.
went, huh?
Like the
Or-
squirrel shit that's going on there. You're like, what is happening
Yeah,
in these
it
cubes?
would make
Yeah.
me want to actually
curious.
and like think out loud or talk out loud or be like,
Yeah.
ask the question,
Yeah.
not just internally, but say it and have you call and respond and vice versa.
Yeah.
It's a nice thing to do that, like, you know, it's like when I watch a movie with someone and they're like, Gus, shut up. And I'm like, I want to talk during the movie.
Yeah.
It was something, it was,
But never laugh.
but I got to talk to someone and laugh with someone through this experience, and I think that just heightens it beyond what is already a beautiful game
Yeah,
with a
absolutely.
very whimsical story
Yep.
with some fantastic gameplay elements too. So that's something I just had to give it mad props
You're
for.
totally right. It's a very cooperative experience.
Yeah.
It's not just a co-op game. It's a very cooperative
Yeah,
experience.
and I think there is a difference between playing a game with people like a Valheim or something where you're all like talking together, working to accomplish broadly the same
can be
thing,
off
but
doing-
you're kind of more playing next to each other.
Yep.
Yep.
And this is like.
Right, sorry, that was another thing. You never need to describe to someone, hey, I just did this thing.
Yes,
and
that's
I was
so
over
true.
here. It's
and
like
the genius of the split, yeah,
correct.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
playing
yeah,
split screen
totally.
even
Yeah, that's a good
online,
point.
so I can glance and very much spent a lot of the game watching Nick play. And when something funny would happen, I can see it or even point things out that you might have missed. So it's like that versus going, oh, I just went over here and a funny thing happened to me because of a weird bit of physics. It's like we can see it together, laugh at it together, and not fake it. Yeah.
Right.
Number two. Takes two.
My number 2 is Valheim. I think this one for me was very much a lockdown savior. I think first lockdown, we developed a really great group of people who were committed to building the most aesthetic woodland Viking village. And it was just I've talked a lot about sort of open world games that I really love spending time in, because there is a chemical release in my brain when I log into a game like that after I've had a tough day, and I just feel like I instantly feel a release and a sense of relief at the same time. It's really, really wonderful. There was something about the palette, the color palette, the music, and I guess the interactions with the creatures in the world. You had such a wonderful opportunity to kind of explore new places and each time venture out a little bit further and discover new things without feeling like it was brutal in the way that some survival games are, to the point where it's frustrating. There was some like sometimes you fly too close to the sun and you go too far, and then you're like, damn it, somebody has to escort me back to my corpse, please, because I went very far away and died. But for the most part, it was just a joy being in that world and discovering more of it. And I think also the building mechanics in it lent itself to some really creative architecture, which is just so cool, because with a lot of survival games, you often just get floor, wall, roof. And
Yeah, like square structure.
yeah, and you're just kind of knocking together the best thing that you can. And
I was so surprised by the thing that everyone built.
No one really cared about what it looked like, because it's like, how can I make the biggest functional thing possible? Whereas in this, people were just like, I was looking at YouTube videos nearly every day, trying to see what other people had built.
How can I make a spiral staircase?
Yeah, that my brain hadn't conceived of yet. And yeah, somebody had kind of created these kind of spiraling castles, and it still was like the physics of building still applied. You couldn't just build whatever you wanted. Everything needed to have the correct support and stuff, and there was kind of a puzzle element to figuring out why this part of the roof kept collapsing.
I spent like probably 6 hours in game trying to build a bridge across a river.
I remember that.
I was like, because you couldn't just put the foundations
I went to bed
in the water.
and I remember, I remember
So it was
waking
like-
up and the light was still on in your office, and I was like, "Are you still?" And you were like, "I will complete this."
It was a fun challenge, and it also was like, and you're totally right. It was a fun physics challenge, but also it was just a fun design challenge as well, because you wanted it to look. It was hard to make things look ugly, but you wanted things to look as good as they possibly could. So it was like, even after I spent 5 hours doing the bridge, I then spent an hour lighting the bridge by putting torches in very specific areas and stuff as well. And
And it was like,
beautiful.
it's like your Minecrafts in the sense that it's a persistent world that we would all kind of just dip in and out of. And so when I would log back in and see something new that someone had built, that was really exciting. And it was really wonderful the way we all sort of started to kind of help each other to be able to, as a group, go and take on the next sort of biome challenge that would then give us new resources to make even better, more exciting things. And I played it for such a long time, and I'm sad that I fell off it, because I think they've brought out Hearth and Home, which is a new expansion, and I really want to check it out, but it was just one of those things where it was like, there's so many games to play.
Yep.
But I'm hoping that I can get back into it now, because we had a Pocketeer server as well, and it was great, and people were making incredible things in there. And I was just so stoked for them, because they're not a huge developer, and the game just really took off on release.
Yeah, it blew up.
Yeah.
Blew up big time.
Great game.
Pete.
My number 2 is Guardians of the Galaxy. What a delight. We've said so much about it. We did a full review of it, and it was wonderful for me to be able to play it on stream as well. It was a really fun way to play it, and I think I would have potentially played it too quickly had I not been pacing it out over streams as well. It was nice to be able to be wanting to play it and not playing it, because it just made me long for it more. And I was and like every time I went back to it, I was like, here we go again. So yeah, I mean, it again, everything that we've already said about it is so true, that it's this brilliant story, and it's so much about relationships. The combat and the gameplay in general was like okay, but fun enough that I was having fun the whole time. And And there were only maybe 1 or 2 sections in the entire game where I was like, oh, they're kind of like making me grind out combat for the sake of extending this moment. But the game is long and it earns how long it is because it's long because of story, not because of padding for the most part. So I think it's just like, it's so high up on my list because of the surprise of how much I enjoyed it.
And as a straightforward single-player game as
Yeah.
well, no multiplayer,
Totally.
no,
Yep.
it's just pure story. It is there for one person to enjoy a playthrough the whole way through. It's just kind of rare to see that these days. That a gimmick, I guess.
Single player games are dead though.
It's true.
But this
Says EA 10 years ago.
Oh, sorry, right.
Yeah.
You're saying, but I'm like, this proves they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will, you're number 2.
Me. My number 2 is It Takes Two Tango. It takes two to tango.
Operation Tango.
Operation Tango.
There it is.
That was the joke.
I was like,
Yeah.
is there
There was an
an
expansion.
expansion
Yeah,
that we
just
didn't
got
know?
that.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I don't know if it takes
The
two
sequel
tango.
to Tango.
It's just similar to that. It Takes Two. It's asymmetrical co-op, and for me, this was that experience for me this year. The basic premise is there is an agent and there's a hacker. One person is able to see the hacking side of things, so they're getting into the mainframe of things and unlocking stuff for the other player. The other player is in a first-person world and interacting with the environment, which was such a cool thing. Like I streamed this with Josh as well.
Yep.
Having him basically literally in my ear, I was the agent for the
It's
most part.
boots on the ground and person in a chair.
Yeah,
kind of vibe, isn't it?
Totally. So it was just I was surprised by how much it nailed that experience of hacking into a building, and there's like a little ongoing story of trying to nail down one specific person that's infiltrating like the spy agency and all that. So it was like it knew exactly what it was, and it just, again, similar to It Takes Two, it constantly threw new ideas. I thought it was going to be kind of an ongoing keep talking and nobody explodes. It's a lot of that, but it was never the same idea in each mission.
Yep.
It was always a different set of puzzles to work through. Like, yeah, I was constantly surprised by it. And there's more. They've just released a thing of basically challenge rooms, which is great because
Yeah, cool.
that's what the game functions best at. And yeah, it was not. It was basically. I liked that it knew what it was trying to do and just stuck to it, which was
As well, just like, I could see it being just as fun if you set up to play this with someone saying, I'm going to be the person in the chair. It's like, I'm going to be your voice or your eyes and ears. And then the other person's like, no, I'm going to have more fun playing as the person running around seeing interact. But just as equally, it's 2 games in one. It's like, then switch that around and enjoy it the complete other way. Both could be just as fun.
absolutely.
So
Yeah, and always that thing. Basically the opposite of It Takes Two of you can always see it. It was cool going like,
Yes.
what can you see? Like, what can you see me do?
Yeah, in the way that Keep Talking Nobody Explodes was a brilliant
Yeah.
experience for that as well.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, you cannot survive without the other person.
Yeah, this one flew under a lot of people's radars.
Oh,
so,
yeah. I think
nice.
it was a PS Plus game.
It was,
That's the
yes.
only
Yeah,
reason I
a couple of
jumped
months
on
ago.
it,
Yeah,
so,
awesome.
lucky.
Nice.
My number 2 is It Takes Two, and we've said it all basically, and so I agree with everything. A
laughed,
wonderful
we've
experience.
cried.
We've laughed, laughed alone. But the thing I'd add is I think that this was also a game that I kind of needed. It is so joyous. It's just obviously, whatever the story aside, there's some stuff there, but I think that just in the moment to moment was just such pure fun, such pure delight, such exploration and discovery of a new mechanic, and the developer Joseph Fares, okay, whoever.
Fairs? Is it
Fairs,
pronounced
Joseph
Fairs?
Fairs, yeah.
The book.
He had that quote before it came out, remember, of like, if anyone is
doesn't
bored playing this, I'll refund your money. And I promise that.
Yeah.
And I was never bored. Like you, I could not wait to sit down and play this again with you. And it was I do think that the playing with you is a huge part of why I loved this game. I agree. Like, it sounds dumb. That was a really special time of being able to play that. But the game by itself is just stellar from go to woe. And there's just not a moment in it where I'm like, you probably could have lost this bit. And I think that that's so...
there was also, like, to be fully transparent, like there were moments where we were playing this for Game Club, so there were moments where we had to both carve out time to play, and that meant sometimes putting something on the back burner or like, I might have an hour now, and so we might have, I think not every time, but at times launched into sessions both a little flatter than you would have been like, time to play game, and so you come in flat, but we left every one of them being like,
that was so good.
And it was like, that was proof of how joyous the game was. It lifted your spirits every time you played because something.
And I also think from just an art design perspective, a triumph. Just so solid in terms of every world having such a unique look, such a fun way of using the you are small and everything is organic. Just loved that. So yeah, just a real stellar.
And the proof of that is in that the pocketies for this one were the best.
We're the best podcast.
Just divine. Just
Yeah, they were great.
Which
So good.
brings us to our number one game.
So my number one game was my purest gaming experience this year, and that was Metroid Dread. I was thinking back over the 10 choices I had here, and which was the game that I was cancelling things with friends, that I was rushing home from work, that I was putting off chores, that I was not feeding myself because I was diving in front of the TV to boot this thing up and play it. It was such an awesome experience. It's such a great game, but I just think it's the Metroid game I never played, and it's what I thought Metroid was growing up. And to experience at this level, which was like, a refined version of all the things those previous games were always doing well, and then to have it with this level of polish, to have it with this level of sort of like great mixing of gameplay mechanics with the difficulty, but it was still approachable. It was fantastic. And then, like whatever the twists it brought in that were new didn't feel that new to me because it was still so like, it was really my first proper experience with one. But the Emmys, the robots that hunt you down, all that kind of stuff, there was no padding in this. It was just such a tight, I guess like maybe 8 hours. I feel like, I don't know, it flew by.
8 to 12 depending on
yeah,
how
it felt like about
lost you
8 or 10 hours. Was just super snappy and quick and sharp and polished and shiny and just so good. It's like, everything else in my list comes up for another reason or two, like, story, but this just had everything I wanted in a game this year.
Yeah, it was either this or Psychonauts on my list for me.
See and then I'm the only one who's put this on the list of 10, and it's my number one. So yeah, it's all the more reason I want everyone else to at least try it once.
It's so good,
play
man.
it,
It's so good.
because I would just recommend it as like a great sort of. It just plays so well on the Switch as well. I think as a handheld, it just feels like a really great Game Boy game or something that you can just tuck in your backpack and play. It just plays so well on a small screen. It just does everything right, and it gives me so much faith in this series where they go forward with it. I'm more excited now for the side-scroller original Metroid games than I am for the potential of a Prime game, of which I played one on GameCube for 4 hours and liked it. So now this is where my love for Metroid is, and more adventures with Samus.
And will be evermore.
Yep, exactly. That's great. Number one.
Number one,
Metroid
Metroid
Dread.
Dread. Steph, your number one game.
My number one is It Takes Two. The only thing that I will add to the things that everyone has already said that I wholly agree with is that I'm just stoked that I guess Hazelight as a studio seem to be committed to creating interesting co-op experiences. And so often in video games that the co-op experience is just that you're kind of in there together and you're working through it side by side. But this was like, how can we make every interaction interesting for each player in a different way, and how can we delight them with the act of working together?
Yep.
And in such a vibrant, exciting, cool world. I feel like I had my mouth open for like the entire playthrough. Every time we turned a corner, I was like, really? It was just so imaginative, and it had a childlike wonder without being kidsy. It was amazing. And
props that they have done
So
two co-op games so well now. Also, interestingly, that like I hope they stick to this as their thing of saying like, I mean, I don't want to paint them into the corner of they have to make every game interestingly co-op after A Way Out and then this, but I feel like this could be their jam.
It's not a competitive space, they kind
that's
of
what I
own
meant.
it if they keep kind of making stuff of this caliber.
Yep.
Because it's so fun, and what you were saying about the fact that you have to make time for it to play it with someone else. You can't, you can't really just forge your way through on your own.
Yeah.
It's a commitment, but it's such a rewarding commitment. So I so impressed.
Good.
Just like-
I think it's on. Is it on all of our lists?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Solid game.
Yeah.
Peter, your number one game.
Is Halo Infinite. They bloody did it. 343 managed to do something good. That's not fair to 343. They've done stuff that's been good, but not great. And they've finally done something great.
Well, it should have been this because they were created only to do this.
Exactly,
They
yeah.
only exist to make Halo, and so far they've screwed it up.
Yeah, and it like I think it's been like it's easy now that we have this to look back and go, they finally made a good game. Halo 4 was fine, and Halo 5 was a misstep story-wise, but they've built some competent stuff. Master Chief Collection, obviously, rough launch as well, but they got it there, and now Halo Infinite is just, I mean, it's everything that I want out of modern Halo, and I'm glad that it is being widely received very well. I love the arena shooter, and this Halo to me has always felt like the best version of a shooter with a controller in your hand. Because it's a dance. It's far more interesting than Call of Duty or Battlefield to me with a controller, and they just really nailed it. It feels classic. It feels modern. It's a balance that I didn't know was possible for them to strike, and they just smashed it. To me, you can't separate Halo's campaign from the multiplayer. Like it's always been a package since Halo 1. The reason that Halo 1 was successful was not because it had a great campaign and not because it had really like the best shooter experience, competitive shooter experience on a console. It was because it had both. That's why it was so successful. And it has had that in 2 and had that in 3 and has spent a bit of time dormant on having brilliant versions of both of those things. I think the campaign is not brilliant, but it's fantastic. And the arena is brilliant. It is as good as Halo has ever felt. So I think we're only going to see the campaign side of things improve with content that releases, and we're only going to see more stuff coming for the arena side. The esports scene is already starting to grow around it, and was ready at launch as well. That was a clever thing from 343 as well to have all those tools built. The Halo Championship tournaments are already running, so it's great. It's in all these spaces, and I just am in love with it.
Was there someone they brought people from Bungie across to 343, or at least
Joseph Staten came across at the terror point 12 months ago.
Yeah, right.
When the beginning of 343?
No. I just remember when they did the reveal and everyone said it looked really ugly.
Yeah, Joseph Staten.
They brought someone in and then they're like, help us, please.
Yeah. And Staten is like not only one of like he worked on the original Halo, not in a lead position then, but in a junior position. But he is the voice of many of the grunts in the game. So,
is he?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
And also the AI Butler, I think one of the other AI that's in there as well. Not Butler, sorry, but one of them. So yeah, he's such a core part of it. It's beautiful to see him in the game as well.
Wait, he's not
That's
the
awesome.
he's not the voiceover guy. Oh, okay, no, he's a different one.
He's not the voiceover guy. No.
Okay, right.
I would also say that there is something. It's almost in some ways it was a blessing in disguise that it hasn't been a good Halo for a while, because I think COD is a game that every year it comes out and people who play it, but it doesn't get a lot of new players all the time. People either are playing it and falling off or playing it and sticking with it, but it doesn't have this big resurgence.
Yeah, this is like
But-
the Renaissance
Yeah,
era.
there is a whole generation of people. There's me, but then there's also a bunch of younger people who are like, I've never played Halo before. And it coming out and feeling like this is actually like a bit like capturing the feeling of when the first one came out and going,
Totally.
I can actually see this sticking around for ages now. And it doesn't feel like something that's always been there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I'm not sure if I've said this, but like part of what is so it's a coming home for me, and part of what I may have said this on air before, but Joe from Good Game and I love Halo so much, and one of the things we've had to deal with over the last decade is telling people from our own hearts that Halo is the best shooter that's ever been on a console, even though Halo 4 and 5 were out.
Yeah.
And Reach, in my opinion, as well. And now we can say it with a straight face.
Yeah, cool.
Because it was, and I feel is, again, the best shooter to play on a console. So I'm stoked.
Good. Beautiful. Number one for Pete. Do you know why your number one is your number one?
I'm not entirely sure.
You were bullied into it.
Yeah, no choice. I had no choice. It's Marvel's Guardians. I echo everything, and I'm so glad that I echo everything you guys have said. I remember like it coming out, and I know you guys, your opinions on the films, and I was like, how is this gonna land? The fact that it does everything so right.
Kinda turn the office.
I was excited when you were excited, and then it was exciting hearing whispers from you guys as well. And it's just it's made me love these characters again. And it's made me realize that I accepted the characters in the films. It's like the amount. Yeah, I know.
Now you know what you deserve.
I know.
Wow.
It's
oh my gosh.
totally. I've grown as a person because of this game. Because I read the comics before the film, and I think the comics have kind of driven back to what the movies have done. This has gotten back to the core of what those characters are, and it was just the performances in this game are insane. The love for the comics is just so apparent.
Yep.
Even down to someone like Lady Hellbender, she exists in 3 issues, has no lore.
Oh, wow.
And they were like, no, yeah, that'll be one of the central kind of antagonists in the game.
Lady Hellbender. Every time I hear her name, I just think of Drax saying it.
It was such a clever move because it made for such a great dynamic
Totally.
between those
It was
characters.
just like,
Totally.
It's, even not just comic love, the game just feels like it's made by people who loved making this game.
Yeah.
Like there's
Absolutely.
there's so much that didn't need to be here. Like and obviously the movies have given the music love. Like that doesn't exist in the comics, and so they brought that across. But they've added it with their own flair and made it their own into the combat and stuff. It's
we didn't
just-
mention that previously.
The music
It
was so great.
wonderful.
It
And
was
Yeah.
amazing.
there's just something undeniable about putting licensed music, let alone absolute classic 80s style bangers into something. It can elevate the worst game, but a great game getting it just it puts you on another level.
It is it is a thing that we don't see that often. You see it in films all the time. You do not see it in video games. And I think that it was like it got nominated for best music at the Game Awards, and I'm like, well, that's bullshit. You can't nominate people from the 80s for that.
Yeah.
But in terms of the experience of hearing licensed music, it does add a prestige to something.
And I'll say that it's not easy to just put a song in and go like you win, because part of the reason it doesn't appear in games a lot is because it's very expensive, but also because typically when it's in a film, it's to elevate a scene, and the scene is cut, edited to that song so that they amplify each other.
Totally.
Whereas you can't do that in a video game. You can't necessarily always go, this song will be great, but I'm relying on the player to elevate it on that half.
Also because music is often like reactive to things that happen in the game. Like this music moment starts when you jump off that thing or you hit this moment. And with licensed stuff, you can't really play with it that way.
Yeah.
So when for me, I finished, that slow motion thing when you get the last kill.
Oh,
when
yeah.
it was a Star-Lord punch to like a drop of the end of
Oh,
one of the things I had.
nice.
I was just pulled out, like,
Yeah.
it was extra
So
magical.
beautifully.
And just to add on the film thing as well, like I've mixed feelings about the films, but it's funny. It's like I'm looking forward to seeing the next one now. That even if there are missteps in the film in terms of performances and character portrayals, I'll be sitting there with a little kind of warmth inside that like I know who that character is really meant to be now, and how I feel about it.
It's how people having read comics bring that over to the
Exactly.
movies. It's
Yeah.
totally
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
They clearly got on so well as a cast as well. I think you shared that video on Twitter of them just kind of like outtakes and stuff like that. And they were riffing off each other and just like
Just in
spontaneous
character.
kind of improv of one-liners and stuff. And you could
Fresh
see
faces as well. Like
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
just
totally.
names from the industry.
Yeah, it's not Nolan North.
North
It's not
wasn't
Troy
all
Baker.
characters.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great. It is. It's also like I cannot think of the last time that the video game was better than the film. I don't think that's ever happened. So well done.
Yeah, no.
Cool. Anything else about it?
Just the fact that it didn't need to be it's not the fact that it's a Marvel game that I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought, 'cause I will consume anything
Yeah,
Marvel,
cool.
of course,
Yeah.
but the fact that it's just good in its own right.
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
so
There you go.
impressive.
Great point.
That's the best thing you could say about it. Guardians of the Galaxy, world's number one. The final game we speak about today is my number one, and like you, my number one is only appearing on my list and on no one else's. But I'm sure we'll see it on many lists around the world, and that is Inscription. Inscription is my number one game of 2021. This game took me so by surprise in all the best possible ways. I remember getting the email from the PR agency going, "Hey, do you want to check out the demo for this thing?" I was like, "Yeah, okay, card game. I'll give it a shot." And then just being so like,
This is not a card game.
yeah, and
This is
just
so much more.
God, how like every surprise in this game is the kind of thing that I love that video games can do. I think mechanically it's really strong as a card game by itself. It is so the mechanics are really interesting. They're very sort of easy to understand, but there's a ton of depth there. The twist that they put on the formula to fuck with the system of a card game and then fuck with the narrative that you're playing with. The fact that essentially there are 3 games in here and all 3 of those games are at least good and at best great. The polish on this is exceptional. Everything just has that added piece of flair, of thought put into it that make it feel considered. Everything about, like, even the way that you can just roll the mouse pad or flick the mouse to go, like, I'm going to look up at the cards that the person has, back down at my hand, back at the cards on the thing, gives a sense that I'm in a space. Like, this is the only game that I've played in a very long time where I'm like, I wish this was in VR because it feels like it should be. There are just so many surprises in this as well, and the FMV stuff that gets put in here, the real-world ARG that got played out after this game got released, the insane lengths that the developer has gone to provide mystery to people with this game that seemingly was just kind of like a bit of a creepy card game is my favorite things that I discover in
Bit of a gamble too as a developer as well, to put so much on, like, to not spoil so much in what your game is and to make it very front heavy of like, this is a really interesting part of the game, but this is what the majority of people have seen. They haven't seen where it goes.
Totally.
And there's so much effort, call it unnecessary, call it bloody, it's so polished in terms of where it goes, but it's a gamble for people to say that's not my bag, and it's like there's 3 other bags.
I was
it's like,
totally. Well,
Yeah.
I was Giant Bomb, their podcast this week. They were talking about that and about the problem with these kinds of games is that oftentimes it's like Doki Doki Literature Club is a perfect example of going. Most people don't like playing Japanese dating sims, and that's what that game looks like. But it's like it's not, and but you need to play through a whole Japanese dating sim to get to the thing that this game is doing. I think that the thing about this is that I think the reason that this is so brilliant is that there is nothing not fun about the game that you're playing the whole time. Sure, you need to be into card games, but the actual card game, if there was nothing else here, I would still be like, this is a hell of a fun card game.
Yeah,
It could so
yeah.
easily be an afterthought of like, oh, I was focusing on the narrative. The card game is disposable
Totally.
here. It's a quick
And it's
indie
just
game.
to disguise
Yeah.
the cool
Yep,
But
it's
yeah.
not. It's like it's almost surprising that you get to a point and you look back at the cards and go, these are being totally reworked. Is that a gimmick? Are these don't actually do anything? It's like, no, there's 3 more systems in play here, and you're like,
It's
but that's amazing.
totally, and it's creepy as hell. I love all the art. The sound design is phenomenal. Everything about it is just such a me game. And I'm so happy that we all got an
me
us
game.
game.
Yeah,
It seems
yeah.
like you know, Halo, Marvel. The sort of like Nintendo platformer co-op like fun with friends experience and like fucked up bullshit
Niche card game.
Yeah.
is amazing. So
Yeah.
that's why 2022 has been such a good year. 2021, sorry, 2022.
But that's hopeful.
Yeah,
I like that.
I like that optimism.
Let's save that energy.
Use this clip at the end of next year after the world falls apart.
And I will bring up that Ben also submitted his list as well. Can we bring up the card of all the lists? We've got Ben's top 10 list. Number 10 for him was Ken and Bridge of Spirits. Number 9, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Then it was Halo Infinite, Unpacking, Deathloop, Outer Wilds, Echoes of the Eye, Inscription, Guardians of the Galaxy, Returnal, and Death's Door. Ben is like an amalgamation of all of us.
So
Plus
confusing.
Return.
But Returnal and Death's Door too that didn't make
And
any
Kenner.
of ours.
Kenner as well.
But
Yeah.
particularly have them up the top as well. Death's Door, I think, making a lot of people's lists this year.
Yeah.
Totally.
Played
Yeah.
and enjoyed, but didn't quite make the cut for the rest of us. But yeah, that's all of ours and a good mix.
Yeah. So I think for me personally, I feel like 2021 has been a fun game, a video game time.
Yep.
like a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
And often for most of my stuff, things that I had no idea was even coming out this year, and then actually lots of little surprises, and
Yeah.
that's my favorite thing each time.
Yeah. I feel like I went through a lot of different phases this year, which was fun to kind of categorize the events of the year in the phases of the video games that I was playing rather than the like various lockdowns we had.
So that is our personal top 10 lists for the year. What are your top 10 games? Let us know in the comments. We will be reading those eagerly to find out what you loved. All the love session has happened. It's now over. It is time to fight because the next video is going to be the Back Pocket official top 10 game of the year, and there will be no compromise.
I'll be laughing alone there.
Oh yeah.
I'm out. I've got Lake on my list.